It's Thierry Henry! He scored! He scored for Arsenal in the Bernabeu! Here's Messi. Away from 2, 3, 4. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And Gerrard! You beauty! What a head, son! What a head! No Kotka. Oh! Fantastic! Aguero!
Stick it in the onion bag.
Hello and welcome to episode 64 of The Onion Bag. This week the boys catch up with Karl Dodd, talk through his professional playing days and also his journey so far as a coach. Some epic stories, including international football, NPL coaching, A-League, to name a few. Sit back and enjoy this one. All right, baggers, so we're joined here today by Karl Dodd. Karl, thanks for giving up your time, mate, and coming and having a chat to us.
No problem. Nice to meet you guys.
Likewise, I do. I guess we'll kick things off, mate. A little bit on your playing career. So played back with the Brisbane Strikers in the old NSL days, from 2002 to 2004. Then moved into the to the Brisbane Roar in the A-League. So that was when the A-League sort of first kicked off. I guess from a player moving from NSL to A-League, how was the transition? Was it a bit more professional or?
There was more money involved with that side, like the professionalism of the game, the marketing. I would say that the quality of player was a lot better in the NSL. I think they just went to try to make the game fast and they took a different type of player or a different approach. And then, the sports science and the medical side was a lot better. But I think if you just applied that to the NSL, you would have a better product as well. I think we kind of lost a lot of Australia when we went to the A-League, like the multicultural clubs, which kind of are the makeup and have invested a lot. And now we see that like the support that they bring is huge, what those clubs are. So forwards in some respects and then backwards in some, if I'm being honest.
Yep.
And probably more so off the field stuff. And you've still got A-League clubs who don't own their own facilities and we've been going for 20 years. So
yeah, it's definitely a struggle. We had Wayne Shrew on a few weeks ago and he said something similar, that the old NSL was, in his opinion, much like you said, bit of a better product.
Yeah, it was tough to make it, and the quality of player across the board in your whole squad was difficult to play against. You're always coming up with, every week with someone of top quality. I mean, when I would come in, I had like Damien Morey, Bobby Despotovsky in one team at Perth, and then you have John Markowski down in Melbourne. Like the caliber of player was a lot better, and it kind of got lost a little bit. I think that break killed it as well. There was a long 14-month break, at least, between the NSL and the A-League. So I think a lot of boys either had enough or went overseas, or there was a lot lost, or they weren't picked up because the number of teams was reduced as well.
Okay.
But yeah.
What do you reckon the fan experience was like during because that was obviously the transitional period, and then they've come in with a completely different setup. What was that like? How did the fans respond?
I think the fans would, like anything, you come out to see what the product is, right? It's new. Let's see how it goes. I don't think they built that relationship. Like as a new team, what's your fan base? I mean, like I said, with a lot of the NSL clubs, fans were attached to those clubs, or there's an identity. And I don't think a lot of the A-League clubs have done well enough in engaging local fans or creating an identity that everyone wants to be a part of, regardless. I mean, look at the Roar. We're one state. We've got one team. I just don't. I know why it's not full every week, but I'm like, how is it not full? If we had a smaller stadium like in Adelaide, like look at what Adelaide does. That's on a smaller scale, and they do fantastic.
Yeah, well, they played the Victory. Was it last week? And it was sold out. It was great to see.
Yeah. So fan experience. I mean, it's a difficult one because the player and a coach, and I've gone and watched games, but yeah. I mean, I always have an affiliation with any Queensland club because that's where I'm from. So, it's your one club. You just do whatever you can and you support it. So,
yep.
Yeah, cool. So after 2006, you moved on to the SPL. Did you go? Was it straight there, or was there
No, so when I was with the Strikers, I went over to Craiova, this Romanian club, and trialled it well. And the goal was to go back over at the end of the NSL season, but I tore my ACL at the end of that season. So, that 4-month break between NSL and A-League was okay for me.
Yeah.
I got to do my rehab, didn't really miss football. So it come about again. And I just, I wanted to go over, and I went over there for a couple of months, and I just didn't get paid. I had a dodgy agent, to say the least, and got screwed up, which was pretty, what's the word, like, you learn a lot being in a place 3 hours out of the capital city, left alone, mortgage to pay, haven't got paid. And then
wow.
I had some mates, like there was another Aussie boy there, and and he helped us out with Daniel McBreen, who used to be at the club, and that was in Scotland, because I was just looking, I needed a club, right? It's like I either stay and I don't get paid and we go to FIFA and that takes years. And I'm like, well, I'm not in that situation. I need to, I need to earn, I need to play. So they let me out, and Naka, or Danny McBreen, got us a trial. I spoke to their coach there, who they were in a relegation fight, Falkirk at the time, and they needed a defender, or he wanted one. So they flew me over, and I trialled with them for 10 days or 2 weeks, and I don't think I've ever trained or played as well in my life.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
One fear behind you, not, you know what I mean? Like, you're playing
Yeah, motivation.
your life. So whatever it took. I mean, I'd never foam rolled so much after a training session just to be ready for the next day. And went in and did really well, and we stayed up and stayed on again the following season. And probably should have, hindsight's great, but the person I was seeing at the time was homesick, and we decided to come back. And being young, you think, oh yeah, I'll just come back, we'll get over it, then we'll come back over, and it just doesn't eventuate. But I loved it over there. I'd still be there, trying my luck in Europe if I could, but it didn't work out. But I was lucky enough, like I said, to do well with Falkirk, and they're in the SPL. And we had a coach, Yogi, John Hughes. He was good, to be fair, like in some respects, and then some, like every coach, good and bad. But I'll never forget, we went to Holland, in Dwindaloo, for a pre-season camp, and we played Gronenberg. And you want to talk about total football, I don't think we touched the ball in that game. And we come back a couple of weeks before the season started, and Yogi's like, that's how we're playing. I was like, fuck, we're going to play like that in Scotland, which is like 100-mile-an-hour pressing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we started like playing out from the back, total football, and we did really well, really well. I think we were 1 point outside the top 6 that year, but we beat like a Rangers and a Celtic, and I don't think teams were expecting us to play.
Yeah, okay.
A lot of that mindset's changed. You're talking like over a decade or so ago, almost. So yeah, it was. But he was good. You can't knock me, like, as a pioneer. Like, he's tried a smaller club like Falkirk, and we're going out, showing we can play football. And we had some good players, as well. He did well with recruitment, so it was an enjoyable time, good experience.
Yeah, I was going to say, you must have had some decent players, because you see a lot of teams, especially in the Premier League, at the moment you see Southampton trying to play out the back every week and getting done. So, like, you have to have the players to be able to do it, sort of thing. So what was your squad like?
Yeah, it was good. I hate to say this, but he had 3 good players from Arsenal. As a Spurs, that pains me. But like,
cover up the old badge at the moment.
Yeah, had Anthony Stokes. We had him on loan, and 2 other boys we'd had on loan. We got them, young boys. So Yogi was like, he would always travel. Like, he knew his club. Like, we weren't a big club. So he'd be traveling during the week, scouting, trying to find better players. And, he had a couple of those. Steve Thompson. We had a player called Russell Latipi, who was almost 40 at the time, still getting player of the month. Like, this guy's nickname was the Magician, and you couldn't get the ball off him. He's Dwight York's best mate, like little Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
Top human being, but yeah, at training and in the game, everything just looked in slow-mo. But you couldn't get the ball off him. So he was great to have in our team. Because we're all pretty young, like boys, and even the keeper, Mark Howard, and that. So we're a pretty young team. Just had a couple of old heads that's around. So yeah, we punched well above our weight.
Yeah, good stuff. So what age were you at the time?
just to backtrack a little bit, the Romania thing. What sort of age are you there?
That was 25, 25, mate. 25.
Yeah, I guess that's
Yeah.
tough, eh? 25-year-old mortgage, not getting paid. Yeah. So how long was it before you quickly made the jump over to Scotland?
Yeah, so like probably after 2 months,
And yeah,
we spoke, and it was like, let's just get out, because I'd signed a 4-year deal like with that club, and I was like, you think you're going to be set, but this is the dodgy side of football that people don't understand, and agents and things like that, they're all, not all, there are good ones, but there's a lot of, if the deal's too good to be true, it probably is. So that was a learning. Then went over.
Yeah, I guess you don't hear too much of that in football, but I guess like young kids keen, aspiring to become something, and just get swindled by a so-called agent. So
yeah. It happened, but worked out for the best anyway.
So in your squad there at Falkirk, I see Casper Smichaels, a young Casper Smichaels was in that squad. Did he have a bit of talent back then? At 20?
He's got a lot better, but I think like they're smart, those clubs. Like he was at Man City and we had him on loan. So they're very good at ideating the best younger ones, and then they farm them out to get game time.
Yeah.
So like, him playing in the SPLs, fast tracked, like his maturity and growth, and then other clubs he's been to. But he's living in the shadow of his old man. He comes to games, and I mean, his hand was the size of two of my hands. And, he's shaking his hand away, and you're like,
yeah, wow,
mitts, mate. Like, why? But it's a bit hard when your old man's Peter Schmeichel, right? But he's done well for himself. Like,
Premier League champion.
Yeah, not many of that.
No. A few others in your squad. Do you was Dean Holden in there? Do you remember?
Yeah, he come. Yeah.
So
Peterborough.
Yeah, former Bolton player. Our other podcaster who's not here is mad Bolton fan. So big Bobby, he'll be keen. So he's over. He's Steven Gerrard's assistant at the moment, I think, in Saudi Arabia. Yeah. So major which direction people.
Stevie Gerrard got binned, didn't he?
Did he? I might.
Was that the rumour? I could be wrong anyway. We'll move on. I could be wrong.
Anyway, other players you keep in contact from Falkirk times?
It's hard because you're on the other side of the world. It's like, you touch base with Dukey, Craig Island that was there, or, Frederick Cedras, Cedric Uras is in France. He was a good player. Like if you reach out, like, other side of the world, the boys understand, and you touch base and they'll help out if you're over there. It's just life, isn't it? You move on because you're not present all the time. So
yeah, of course.
And I guess the professionalism in the SPL or at Falkirk how was it compared to say like the A League? I know it's a smaller club in the SPL. How would you sum it up?
No, professionalism is through the roof because your livelihood's on the line. Like I've never been in anything like it. When I got there, and it was like a relegation fight, and it's everything matters. Like every point, anything you do, it's like you're literally paying for your life. Because if you get relegated, then everyone's wages get halved to start with, and then will get released, and because the club loses money, and then it's off-field staff as well. So there's huge pressure,
huge responsibility there.
Yeah, and you play a very different way to then if you're in the top six. Like you cannot make a mistake. Goal. It's like you're literally hanging on for dear life and defending like your life depends on it, which it does. And then so you don't really experience that pressure and that scrutiny that you get put under like in Australia. Like it's too nice here. It's too easy. And like when I went there was 6 other central defenders. And I was like, why are you signing me? They're all just as good. And like the training was harder than the game. Well, they're like World Cups to train. It was full because everyone's trying to get their spot. And then when you get your spot, like you just do whatever you can to keep it. If you make one mistake, it's like, well, this guy's ready to go. It's not like you've had a mare, like one little mistake. It's like, okay, why did you make that mistake? You're like, what? Human, not good enough. This guy's ready to go. He's in, you're out. And you're not going to sit there and knock on the gaffer's door. He'll just punch you and find another club. Like here in Australia, they're just too entitled and just don't understand like what you have to deliver. You can't just deliver +1, like just better than you, you have to give 100% in every game, and like that's the level. Like Europe, and like you play a lot of European other teams, like in preseason games and cups and things like that. Like it is all like that, full on. And we come to Australia, and you're like, yeah, it's infuriating when you've had that, and you come back and you see the laziness that we are, like how lazy we are here compared to that. But then we're like, oh, we'll go on a trial overseas, and you're like, hey, you got Buckley's chance. You have no idea the level or standard required effort. So a lot of players will go over, get a taste, come back, and they train the house down, and you're like, oh, now I understand what it takes. But the hardest thing is your whole training group or your squad, because they don't know.
Yeah. So you can't drag them up, kind of thing.
Yeah, because you're saying something, they're like, this guy's an idiot. What are you on about? You're like, mate, it's whatever you. So you see time when boys that come back from Europe, and they're just like, they go nuts because of the mentality that we have here. Like, we can play, we just don't put our life on the line in every game and every training session.
I feel like that's often like when I look at the fans over there, you know, in Europe and even South America and stuff, like it is the most important thing to them, and that kind of feeds into the club and the players. Here it seems like you don't have that same passion. Like, I hate to say it, it's very hard. Some smaller clubs, like, you can get that same passion, but it's something that's really hard to recreate, isn't it?
It's not our culture. It's not our life. Like, it's everyone's life in Europe. Like, that's who they affiliate with. That's their identity. Like, everyone supports a team. Like, your grandma will support a team. Like, my parents are English. So it's like, everyone has a team that they support.
Yeah.
Here, it's like, oh, yeah, we might go watch the Roar, or we might go, you know. Like,
yeah.
And then coach locally, it's like, it gets frustrating. We got training. Oh, yeah, I was going to go out and do something with my friends. Okay. You can never hear that. You know, the excuses you get as a coach, you're just like, okay.
Yeah, just not dedicated enough, are we?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of that. I reckon it's probably because Australia is just a nice country, and you've just got a lot of good stuff here that you don't like. You're well off, you know.
Well, when we get on to a bit more of your coaching stuff, we might delve a bit more deeper into that mentality of players, MPL level, A-League level, stuff like that. So I guess just to wrap up your time in the SPL, how was it travelling away to the Ibrox, let's say? Like, I've seen a game live there, and there were people in the crowd threatening to stab their players in the car park, and I was like, wow, what is this?
It's funny because Falkirk, it's like everyone supports their team, and then Rangers or Celtic, right? So Falkirk was kind of like Rangers as well. That was it. But yeah, that was hostile, to say the least. Yeah, that's their fan base. And then, you know, same as Celtic. Celtic's a bit nicer, but different. But yeah, mate, when those two play each other, it's ridiculous. Like the rivalry. Like you can't, like, the highest thing we've got in Australia is a state of origin, but that doesn't even come close to like a Rangers Celtic derby.
Yeah, the old firm would have to be on the bucket list, I'd say.
Yeah, that's got to be a buzz, isn't it? Going out there and being part of that. So after Falkirk,
yeah, you head back to the A-League, Wellington Phoenix.
Yeah, come back and started that up. It's hard. Like, this probably the second startup club I've been at. Like the Raw, and then the Phoenix. A lot of people don't understand. It's very hard because you're creating something. Like, what is the club? You've got, you know, there's nothing to it. It's brand new.
No fan base yet. Yeah, no identity. Yeah.
Yeah, and the same. Then you've got the playing group and culture, and then, you know, where it's at now it's come a long way from where it was, but that's a lot of work and takes time. Because it's, like I said, it was a brand new club.
Yeah.
So, but it's a beautiful place, New Zealand. Good boys, did well, but I think, you know, that a lot of the time it's, you know, it's a you know, the Kiwi team should have been pushed through that a lot more, in my opinion. Like the national team, they should have used that a lot better. But look, it's getting to that point now, isn't it? Now you've got Auckland, so that's going to be massive for their national teams, having Auckland and Wellington in there. But there are a lot of good guys, like, you know, same thing, good guys that were in there. Got to play with good players and meet good people. And, you know, like Richard Johnson, is a legend, like Watford legend, and I actually went and met him. I was over in Europe and spent like almost a week with him at Watford. He's the academy director there, just shadowing and following me around. He's just a fantastic human. Looked after me more than I could ever imagine, and just learned. You're always learning, and that's just a massive experience. And he's doing a great job at Watford as their academy director. So like
Awesome.
contacts, it's crazy who goes on to do what.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And what was it like in terms of like the only New Zealand team in the A-League at that time as well? Obviously, it was early doors, but did you kind of feel part of it, or did New Zealand feel a bit kind of shoved in the side?
Yeah, I mean, the history wasn't great with the New Zealand teams because you had the Knights, right? And that was kind of like the whipping boys, New Zealand Knights back in the NSL. And so you're trying to create something new, right? It's not just another Kiwi whipping boy team. It was decent. Could have been a lot better as well. The hardest thing there is the culture is rugby union. Like,
Yeah.
you will never beat the All Blacks or come close. Like, it is ingrained in all their schools, rugby, So then you're playing second fiddle to that. But no, it was good. Like, it just needs time. These places just need time and investment. They're on the right track now. They've got great facilities where they are, and investors. So, like, there's a reason they're doing well. Well, this year they're not so great, but the last couple of seasons done really well.
Yeah, Auckland are doing well this season.
Yeah,
It's good to see.
yeah.
Yeah. So, mate, then you head to another startup club. Is that just a chance to head back to Queensland to the Fury?
Yeah, so my knee was starting to go. So I'd had 2 ACLs and a few cleanups, but 2 ACLs by the time I was 24. And then, my knee had a hole in the cartilage, and that was starting to go. And I had a deal in South Korea at the Phoenix. That's why I left the Phoenix, and I failed that medical.
Yeah.
And then I come back, and I was like, well, timing wasn't great. Clubs have already signed, and I've got a dodgy knee. So I played a few games, had surgery cleanup to see if it would work. And then I think I played 5 games for Sydney United with Arte Milicic as coaching there, and Dave Zulic was playing, they were player coach. And that was good. Like, enjoyed it. And then, the Fury come round, and I was like, all right, sounds good, we'll go there. And my knee would just, like, after a few games, it was actually Wellington. We played Wellington, and it just gave way in the game. And it's like, that doesn't feel right. Come off and had this surgery. They're like, if this doesn't work now, it's kind of like you've got to have this Macy graft, it's called, which is a 16-month surgery, like rehab process. And so that I had the surgery. It didn't work. And then I come back to try to play in a game, and I just felt like crap and binned it. And then I had to have this Macy graft surgery where they take a piece of your cartilage out, stick it in a lab, grow it for 6 weeks, and then put it in the hole. And then in your, bone, cartilage, and it's supposed to grow. But it's a 16-month rehab, and that broke me because it failed. And
Oh man,
I was down at Melbourne Heart trialing down there, and you do well in a game or training, and then your knee would just blow up, and you have this like size of a tennis ball fluid behind your knee, and it takes like a week at least to get it out. So you're trying to, you just want to get through training sessions, and you just can't move, and you're like, got to be honest. And then, so I was managing that, and then this deal in Hong Kong come out of nowhere, and I was like, all right, well, if they want to take a punt, do they know about my knee? Yep, okay. And so you played once every week or 2 over there, and they're happy for that. And it's like get around on one leg. It wasn't great, but that was an interesting experience as well. But yeah, in terms of this Australian football journey, that was kind of over at the Fury. The knee had just given way, so it's frustrating. You just mentally you're there. It's even now at 40, you're like upstairs, you're like feel sharp, and then your body's just like, nah, what are you doing?
yeah, wow.
So was it the same knee?
Well, I had an ACL in both knees, and then it was the right knee.
Jesus.
And I had the whole, like, just the cartilage had just dropped out, and then bone on bone. So I just
Brutal. Really.
Yeah, it was tough too because the Fury went broke, right? So I did it the first season. Sorry, they closed them. Did it the first season. So you're doing rehab, and you're like, okay, there's light at the end of the tunnel because if I can get back maybe you can play again, or if you can't, maybe there's a coaching opportunity, right? Like, you know, when you start getting into your career, you're like, well, what do I do next? And coaching was always on the cards. And then, the Fury folded. So I'm like, got no club. I can't run. I'm doing rehab. And you just feel like the forgotten person. It's lonely as hell. It's depressing. And it's just, mate, what do you do? So then, that killed me almost, like mentally.
Yeah, wow.
Back from that. But it's good people, yeah. So, we went to Hong Kong, and that was interesting. Like, Graham's been there as well. It's one guy, 7 clubs.
Really?
And then this other guy owns another couple, and it was quite funny because our coach was really smart. So he's a Hong Kong guy, and he'd been around, and he's like, oh, the club that I played at with Pegasus was the owner's wife's club. Like, he's like, that's your club, you know.
No way.
We
Or just have fun with it.
Yeah, but we were winning, right?
True.
So when you're winning, he's like raging because South China should be winning at Kitchi, which is another guy. So because we were winning, he just cut, right, the foreigners aren't playing. So you take the foreigners out of the team. We're all sitting on the bench because you don't know what the lineup is until you get to the game and you hand your phone in. And then it's like, foreigners on the bench. It's like, oh, right. So we're just all sitting there. But he was smart, our coach, because he knew that he would do this. So then he signed all the all the Hong Kong national team players, the junior ones. So we would still win. So he was raging, but it ended up trying to kill his wife's team at the expense of his team as well. And Kitchi ended up winning the other guy's team. It's like, mate, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Wow.
Out of control. I didn't realise that.
Just have the upper hand at the dinner table.
Yeah.
Well, it's all hierarchy over there, mate. You don't answer up, that's for sure.
Did you enjoy your time in Hong Kong?
Beautiful place, beautiful people. Loved it. MTR is unbelievable, the train system they got there, and good experience. It's just the football's frustrating because there's so much, I'll use the word politics, nicely involved in it. So, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Just doubling back to the Fury. So Robbie Fowler was in the squad at the time. So tell us a bit about him.
Oh, legend. You grow up watching him playing, and then we signed him. And I think they got him on a good day in Townsville. They took him up, showed him, where the fish are and all the beautiful spots. Because there's not much to do up there, right? So every time we'd fly into state, he'd be like, fuck, they've stitched me up here. Like, what? But funny guy. Remember he's doing his rehab with me, and he turned up in the pool, at the local pool at Townsville, and he's brought a snorkel and flippers. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, we're swimming, aren't we? I'm like, get rid of them. I don't know. My swim coach told me to wear them, and he was dead serious. And so he's in the local swimming pool wearing a snorkel and flippers. And I'm fucking doing rehab with him in the pool. I'm like, mate, we're just getting laughed at here.
Wow.
But good guy. We went to we almost killed him at Gold Coast. We played Gold Coast United, and the next day we did recovery at Mermaid Beach, which is like an open beach. So we're like, all right, we'll go out, and we're on the sandbank. So, you go out, it's shallow, then there's a sandbank, and then the bigger waves are. So we're on the sandbank, and we're like, Robbie, the sets are coming, mate. We got to go out a bit further. And he's like, you're taking the piss. I'm staying here. I'm like, mate, you need to come out further. You're going to get smashed by these waves. They thought we were joking. So we all swim out. Waves come. Next minute, just clean him up, and no one can see him.
Oh, no.
Where the hell he is? I'm like, oh, my God, we just killed the marquee. Where the f is he? It's taken him all the way in, to the shore, where he's just rolled out of the wave.
No.
And we're just like, oh, thank God he turned up.
Should have brought his flippers.
And if snorkel, he could have seen where he was going. But good player. His body was gone, injury-wise, but you can tell the class, his technique, his smarts in the game, and good person, got around the team. So
happy to part knowledge onto the younger cats and stuff.
Yeah, excellent. And good for banter, good to be around. It was just, you wish you got him in his prime. Look, you see what he was really like, because he's you can see upstairs, he's ahead of everyone.
Yeah.
You don't play at Liverpool.
Yeah, that's right.
Alaba, right? So, no, he was good. It was great for the league as well. It's just sad, the Fury, the short-sightedness. I mean, it took the Cowboys 10 years, like the rugby team, to get going in Townsville. and it wasn't done properly from the, it takes time. So already in 2 years, you're getting, 5 to 7,000 people at your games. Like the Cowboys weren't getting that early on. And then, in my opinion, it needed to be like, okay, Townsville's your base. You play 5 games at home there, but then you've got to move around the state. And Darwin, like you're the showcase team for Northern Queensland.
Yeah.
Get around and just be that team. And there's a lot of good players up there. They just don't get opportunity or time or, exposure. Which we all know, and being a Queenslander, we've known that since day dot. A lot of good players up there. To make it, you got to come down to the big smoke. I mean, I'm Gold Coast born and bred, and I had to drive an hour to Brisbane. If you're not in Brisbane, forget about it, right? So,
yeah, we've been hearing that a lot, to be fair.
Yeah.
So other players in your squad, Jeremy Brocky was there. Do you remember?
Brocks, yeah.
Brocky,
yeah. Broxwell, yeah.
So he was still in Townsville, I think, isn't he?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Coaching clinics and all that.
Yeah, we've been trying to get him on, actually, to the bag. So any word you can put in would be great.
Got him to come on. He's a good guy, Brox.
Yeah, it seems it. So after that, sort of the injury and Hong Kong, did that sort of spell the end for your playing?
Hong Kong, yeah, it was the end. I mean, you float around and like locally when you're coaching and helping out, like with Moreton City, well, Moreton Bay it was called at the time briefly, and then you're getting jobs in the A League and come back. And to be fair, like the happiest thing for me was getting to actually play at Palm Beach, which is my junior club. I played it till I was 16, 17, since first club and only club as a kid. And the fact that I got to finish up playing there and we won the league and the final and playing with a good mate, Christian Rees, that was like a really happy experience, I guess, in my career after everything I'd been through, like to finish off at the club I started.
Yeah, full circle.
I was lucky enough to get that experience. So yeah, happy with that. That's for sure.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. But no, I mean, you can't really count that as playing because you float around on one knee, but just, coaching. I mean, I did my badges and studies while I was playing as well. I think early on, like my old man was a coach, so I did my, what were they called back in the day, level 2, whatever, when I was like 19, 18, when I had my first ACL, and did my studies while I was playing as well. Because when you have 2 ACLs by 24, you pretty much know you're not going to be playing until 40 or 30.
Yeah.
So you start planning afterwards, and I always wanted to coach. Like that was the plan and always has been. So it's just difficult in Australia. Opportunity,
So from what age would you, like, you always wanted to coach since?
Yeah, I mean, since 2, I was literally a ball boy in my old man's training sessions. You get carried along, and he's coaching, and you're just, packing up balls and chasing things and like that, and you're watching games. You spend all your weekends there, and like I did refereeing, everything. I just loved football. So I'd be there, Friday night you'd play, then you'd ref Saturday, watch the senior team play, and play with your mates all Sunday. So I was, football tragic, unfortunately.
Awesome.
Just a couple of your coaching badges that you've got before we step through a bit of your coaching career. Your AFC Pro license.
Yeah,
that allows you to coach at the highest level within Australia and Asia. That's right.
And equivalency if you've done over 5 years in the UK or in Europe. Sorry. So the pro license is the highest one. So I think I got that in 2019.
So what just what does that entail? Like X amount of years, hours?
Well, yeah, you go through like your CBA like badges and time, and then I think it's pretty cutthroat because not even there's not a lot of sports, and then you just got to do 4 or 5 modules. There's a lot more leadership management stuff on those ones compared to your session planning and all that. But I wish there was a lot more leadership and management stuff on the earlier courses, that's for sure. But it's more that side of it. You've got your philosophy and who you are and how you lead and manage and do media and everything. So it's just a more 360 kind of approach to it and who you are as a person, which I liked a lot. I mean, a lot of the time you kind of force fed that these are the best coaches and this is who you should be like. Whereas it's, who are you and who do you identify with? So I might have Like I like, Sean Dyche, Ancelotti, Bielsa, Fergie, but for different reasons. Like Fergie's club management, Ancelotti's man management, Sean Dyche's leadership, what he's done at Burnley, and then you've got Bielsa's playing style. So like, I resonate with those people, but I'm still me. I'm not trying to, like Fergie would coach. I coach what's natural to me. So that my message is natural. I'm natural. I'm not disingenuine. So that has a better outcome, I guess, with players when you're coaching people. Yeah, more so on that kind of stuff with the pro license.
Yeah, fair enough. That's awesome.
And then your UEFA A license, which is obviously, I believe, pretty close to the equivalent in Europe.
Yeah, so I got equivalency on that when I was in the UK just recently. So unfortunately, the Asian licenses aren't recognised in UEFA unless you've coached professionally for like 5+ years, which is kind of like being led down, a path. Well, why didn't I just do the UEFA ones? Because I'd started doing my UEFA B when I was in Scotland. I was like, if I'd have known that, I would have just stayed on that path.
Yeah, fair enough.
And done my pro there. But there's other ways around it now. It's just UEFA just thinks it's above everyone else, pretty much, in the short of saying it. So yeah, a bit of snobbery, but it's some courses. It's like every place, in UEFA, there'll be some countries that have dodgy courses and poor ones. Same as in Asia. But then when the people come over and they see the Aussie one or the Japanese one or the Iranian one, it's like, hang on, these are top quality coaching courses. But we're kind of tarred with just this perception.
Right.
So yeah, so now I've got a UEFA equivalency, and I think now you use coaching courses and those kind of things more from a networking perspective, right?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind doing the UEFA Pro eventually, but just more for networking, meeting people, say you get jobs, things like that, right? So
yeah, it seems quite a small world, coaching, like the coaching world. There's a lot of people make connections through just random occurrences, and I particularly enjoyed sort of hearing how many times you and Graham Harvey have sort of linked up and hearing these stories. It's very interesting. But moving on to your actual career in coaching, so your Western Pride head coach. We've had a few Western Pride links over the past few weeks. We've had Joe Duckworth on, Dan Burnell and Graham Harvey.
Yep. Pretty relevant at the moment.
Yeah, so they all sort of basically said that you laid the groundwork for that sort of successful period, and Graham Harvey sort of grabbed the baton, I suppose. So what was your sort of thinking behind that squad?
When I first finished playing, I was doing assistant coach high performance at Moreton Bay, setting that up, and I think 6 months in, and then I got the job at Newcastle Jets. So I was, S&C coach there, field coach as well. You're pretty much assistant coach with an A license as well. Under Gary Van Egmond, and then you just get the buzz. You want to coach, right? So you have ideas, but those roles were just to prepare me, because you got to, as a head coach, you got to know what everyone's role is and who's good and who's bad. And so the Dutch or Van Egmond got sacked. They brought on Clayton Zane, and then he ended up not wanting to take it moving forward, and they brought in a new coach. So we all got released, which is football, right? You're going to get sacked or right on. That's part of it. It's not personal. Because we did a pretty good job. Anyway, come back, and Casey Weirman was coaching the Pride, and he was leaving. And I know Casey, Queensland boy. He did my licenses with him. Good character. And he's like, "Oh, do you want it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll take it. I'll have a crack." And you get in there and you start to realize just how hard it is in those regional areas. Like, it's near impossible to get good players, like from the city or anyone. It's too far. And coaches. And like Graham's has done it at Redlands, another version of Pride out at Redlands. It's so hard to work in those regional clubs. So it was like, well, that's not going to work, that strategy. And I like coaching, like actually coaching, making players better, not just signing, recruiting, and that side of it. So it was like, all right, what's the strategy we can do? So I did like a high performance review of the region with Krishnal. He was a very good person and good ally to have on board at the time, and still is, still keeping contact. So we did that review, and from that we were like, okay, well, let's go youth. Like, let's just get the best young kids, give them an opportunity, and just show everyone up. Because, as coaches, you always think you back yourself, right? So I'm like, all right, I'll make these kids better. So the plan was, we'll get all these young boys in that, whether they've been released from the QAS, they're in the 23s or youth teams or in other clubs that aren't getting games in top team, and that are good players, and we can make them better. And it's opportunity, right? You can either sit in the reserves or 23s or 18s, or you can come play top team here. So that was the lure. There's no money.
Yep.
And then coaching wise, you were doing 10 hats, and I just went, I remember I went to Dan, I was like, mate, can you just take the 18s? They hadn't won a game in 2 years. I think I was at the point with Pat Boyle, I was like, can we just get rid of the 18s this year? Because nobody would come and play for them because they hadn't won a game in 2 years. So all your other teams are okay, and that no one would touch this team, right?
Wow.
So poor Dan, credit to him, mate. He took it and did his best, and I think they got a draw or something. The celebration was out of control. He got stitched up. I stitched him up there. So sorry, Dan, if you listen. But he took it, and then we just went young boys, and that was the strategy. And the goal was, look, in 5 years, I reckon these kids are good enough to win it. And after the first year, I got the opportunity to go to the Roar, which is always a tough one, because it's like you have a baby, you're starting, right? You're building this thing. It's like it's yours. But how do you know when the opportunity to be a professional is going to be there? So you kind of have to take it.
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
that's on that.
Right. So you take it. But I'm big on continuity. So I knew Graham from coaching courses and being around, and rated him in person. And I'm like, I need to bring in someone that's going to continue what this is. Not going to come in and ask for massive budget and sign top players. It's like, no, this is a development club. We're here to give kids opportunities. And I think, over 10 players signed professionally in that 3-year period, like probably more it was, into professional clubs, which is, Graham, when I come back, like Graham had done the work and he won the grand final with the kids and all that. And I came back as football director, but mate, Graham had escalated that place. He kicked on. I probably just like leveled it, and I'll never forget the first trials. I was like the bad guy. I was like, sat everyone down. I was like, listen, we're going a different approach, guys. Nothing personal. We're going youth, and this are the reasons why. I'm sure you can understand that. I'll help you find other clubs, but this is the strategy we're taking. It's a long-term strategy, and so I kind of leveled it, built it, and Graham took it on to the next level. Really good, brought in other good people. So I'm proud that, yes, we started that, but I'm more proud of the continuity that we got in place there, and the number of players that kicked on, because that's what the NPL was supposed to be. Like we were the top, and everyone was like, there were supposed to be catchment clubs, right? You had 8 to 12 catchment clubs feeding into us, and the blowback that we got was ridiculous. So I remember going to nights. I was like, God, can I have these 18, 19, 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds? They're like, no, they're our players. I'm like, just give them to me. I'll play them top team. I'm training 3-4 times a week. At the end of the year, I've got to release 18 plus players, right? Because of the progression. 16s come up, 18s, so you got to release all these players. I'm like, mate, at the end of the year, they're going to be twice the player they are. You can have them back. So it wasn't until the end of that first year, I think the other catchment clubs were like, oh, hang on, we can, get a free ride off the Pride here.
Yeah.
And then these clubs, So, but it was frustrating as hell trying to get like them on board and everyone else. You just got lip service. Yeah. We'll give you a player, and then they're in the player's ear, and you're like, hang on, we're supposed to be here above you, like on the pecking order, to get these boys into professional clubs, and you're holding these kids back because you think at Div 2 that you're going to get them into an A-League or professional club. It's like, do you not understand the pecking order, the hierarchy, or the ecosystem of Australian football?
Yeah.
That's infuriating, right?
Stifling opportunities for people.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's new. It's a new thing as well. Like, to get people to come over and roll their sleeves up and go to those tough times. Like we cop floggings at times. And I deliberately, like, I remember we played the Raw and I had 2 boys sent off in 20 minutes. And I'm like, Harlem was my assistant. She's like, oh, you need to lock it up. I go, fuck them. They want to get sent off in 2 players in 20 minutes and not control their emotion. They can cop it, because I guarantee they'll never do that again. And we lost 12-0.
Wow.
People are like, oh, you lost 12-0. I was like, yeah, but the lesson those boys learned in that set them up as men for the next time. So they would never, well, they understood the importance of regulating their emotion in a game.
Mm.
So it's like all the hard lessons that we went through, because they're young boys and you've got to expose them, not put Band-Aids on. Like, we went through that, and people don't understand that. And then people want to jump in 3 years later when G's doing well and want to be a part of it. And you're like, hang on, where were you 3 years ago when I asked you to come in? You didn't want to go through that. You didn't want to do what Dan Burnell did, what Chris Hill did, all these other guys that were like, you know, good club people and good people first and foremost.
Yeah.
You know, it's stuck those tough times. Like, you imagine coaching those 18s. You're not winning this week. Like, what are you saying in your team talk? This is the week, guys. Come on, believe. It's like, mate, you run out, right, of things to say.
Yeah.
That's character. And that's what we had and built upon that. And that's why, you know, when my time ended at the Raw, I come pat straight back in and we had a different thing to build the club again, try to get an A-League. But when I come back, I was like so proud of how much those boys have developed, what G did, Dan, all those other guys. And, you know, you're like, that's what coaching, being in football for me, is about, you know, making things and people better. So,
Yeah.
you know, when we're at Pride, it was like, mate, we had 1.5 field. We had kangaroos on field 3. I shit you not. And we're like, now they've got 2.5 proper fields. Like the progression club, and like what Pat Boyle did is, but, you know, good and bad at everyone, but Pat put his heart and soul into that club.
Mm.
You know, so those kind of things you don't see a lot of, and that's why it's so special. That Pride thing is the journey we went through to achieve that, the hell we went through at times. But it's worth it because it makes you a stronger person.
Yeah. It's good to see a club sort of have that long-term vision as well, you know, not just about the club, but sort of about developing players and then growing with them a bit.
Yeah, but if you have, what you realise, if the board and higher level don't understand that and don't continue it, they're the ones that change the direction of the club.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as we leave or Graham leaves, like we did, they bring in other people, and next minute they go back to this redundant mentality of paying older players more money.
Big money. Mm.
And then you end up getting relegated and unsuccessful. It's like, stick to the development plan. Like the NPL, there's not that much disparity between a 17-year-old and a 30-year-old, mate. Like, they can do the same. This guy's cheaper, will die and fight more. Because what happens when you get stay in the NPL for so long is, like, where are they going to go? You just become big fish, small pond, because they know they're going to make it to the A-League or professional. So they just go, how much money can I earn?
Yeah.
And how what are the minimum numbers of trainings I have to do as an older player to get through?
Yeah.
You know, so you've got this kind of disconnect. You've got young boys that want it, and then you've got the older boys that go, well, what am I playing for? Like, yeah, I'm playing to compete and do well. I want to win, but like, you haven't the desire or the passion that that younger boy has. Younger player. And it's like, yeah.
Do you think those kind of like clubs with that mentality have contributed largely to, we've seen like Australia at the moment isn't producing top level players and hasn't for a few years. Do you think that's sort of like part of the problem in the system?
Yeah, the leagues that need the salary cap aren't the A-League. The A-League needs a business cap where you're not going under. Like, you're breaking even. The salary caps need to be in the NPL and below, because you've got clubs, right? You're spending 6 figures plus, like 1 to 200K on players in the NPL to win what? A $50 trophy. And meanwhile, you've got no green space. Your fields are garbage. Your facilities are broken. But you're going, well, our top team, we can win that. What has that got to do with anything? And then you don't want to pay your coaches what they're worth, so then they quit. And then these kids are now paying for your top team players. They're paying $3,000 to finance the top teams and things like that. And you're like, it's upside down. Like, you go to Spain, all the coaches, the younger coaches, are paid the most of the best coaches. And they have this production line of players coming through. That makes it cheaper at the top. Because if you've got a player that doesn't want to take what you're offering, see you later, the next one comes. Like, you've got to have this from below and invest in that area. and then invest in your facilities. Like green space is a massive issue in Brisbane, and the clubs happily rent. You might as well, like, over the course of 5 years, you probably spent over $1 million. You could have bought a block of land for that. And
Yeah.
you know, I mean, like, it's the same in the A-League. Like, the A-League has rented facilities for 20 years, clubs. Like, how much money is that? That's over 10 to 15 mil on rent.
Yeah.
But if you bought a facility, you would have had it built after 5-10 years. You're paying off a loan, you own it. You could put other things in there that make you money. The business side of football is infuriating for me. And that's boards and presidents and people, because they don't understand. Like, they might be good at their business outside of football, but they come into football and they don't understand. And the coaches are the most accredited and knowledgeable, because we go to clubs overseas. We have to advance ourselves. We're the ones held through the ringer, the coaching licenses, right? But you can be president of a club with nothing.
Yeah, very true.
You can be board member for nothing, and you're the key decision maker. And you know what happens? They come in, and because they don't understand professional football or what we should be taking it to, or strategy, they go, well, that club's doing that, so we'll do that. And so you have this commonality, right? Where all these clubs are doing the same strategy. And if you speak out or do something different, this guy, nah, what are you doing? It's like, okay. That's why we were lucky at Pride, because we had the time to do it. It's like, it can work, and it will work every single time. It's like, you just got to be strong in your belief, but ego kicks in, and we didn't do well this year. So what? You're not going to do well next year. If you're not in a position to challenge, you're just throwing money down the toilet. So you're better off investing in your kids until they come through. But that's good coaches. Like, pay for your coaches' badges. Like, look after them. It's the hardest job, mate, because you don't get protected and you get treated like crap. And, you do all the one that just blame the coach. Oh, okay. It's not the culture of the club that's been there for how many decades. And it's not your strategy or lack of strategy, or it's not, where's the production line? Like, I can't fix that in 1 minute. That years of neglect, or, so it takes time, and it's like, that's infuriating. Like, we have this audit for clubs. Okay. What needs to be audited is the governance of the game. Like, you're president of a club or on a board, you need to have business acumen, or you need to have a football course or something in there where you understand what coaches are trying to do, or how to run a football club properly.
Yep.
Look, I thought there probably should be some sort of
1,000
administration badge you need to run a club.
But in line with what the governing body's trying to do, like I've been in national teams. National teams are about developing players, right? Because they need them for their teams, right? But that they're a representation of the domestic leagues. And if the domestic leagues are poor and they're not about development, because if you want to win a $50 trophy, you play very different, right, to a development approach. Because a development approach, you rip the Band-Aids off and you expose the player. You win a $50 trophy, you cover the cracks. I can't let that player do that because you'll get exposed. So you play very different. But that doesn't develop a player. Like, that limits his ceiling. So, you've got these two approaches, and now they're bringing in the PPS, which is quite funny, because it's like, oh, now you have to have 3 under 23 players. I'm like, but even that, or 20 or whatever it is, it's like, that's still old. Like,
Yeah.
Graham Harvey spoke about detriment in the NPL being the relegation that they brought in.
Yeah, because it's hard for clubs to establish themselves. Like,
to take your approach at the Pride, you wouldn't have been able to do that.
No, but exactly right. And I tried a similar thing at the city, but at Brisbane City, but it's like, it's just mentality, right? But there's no relegation. And that's the same with the A-League. If there's no relegation, I don't understand why we're not a development. Like, it's a development league. That's what Australia, that's where we sit in the pecking order right now. So why are we paying these players that have hit their ceiling, older players that aren't good? There's so many good young boys. Just put them through. Like, you should have this production line of young players, and that's your business model. And they're either winning things with your club or you're selling them to overseas. Like, that's your money maker. But yet we sign these boys, 28, 30 years of age, whatever. They better be good players, and where they're going to teach the young boys something rather than coming in and taking a spot. You know what I mean? It's the same with the NPL now. It's like, they're so afraid of playing the younger boys. It's like, well, as long as we've got status, we're okay. But sometimes, why don't you just get relegated? If that's your approach, like, all you're doing is just buying time till you go down. If you haven't got your development line, production line coming through with your kids, Like all you're doing is surviving. So
Yeah, that's a good
have a
point.
really good production line coming through, then you're forever going to challenge for the top four and win things, and a lot cheaper. You know what I mean? Because if you, for example, if I've got a 28-year-old and he's on huge money, and I've got 5 young boys, and they do well that year, and they go, hang on, this player's on that, well, I'm on that. And then you've got 5 boys going, I want the same. That's just like quadrupled your budget.
True.
It's like there's a financial side to it as well. You know, like I had a big budget at City, but I'm like, I'm not spending it on average players. Like you've got to have a long-term strategy and consistently produce players, then you can challenge consistently.
100%.
We're not Man City, where you've got a Sheik as an owner that's just throwing his field and buy the best ones. It's like, you know,
Mind you, they develop some good players as well, Man City, somehow.
well, they also buy the best ones when they're younger as well.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, I realised when I was there at Watford with Jono, but yeah.
So I just wanted to. So we skipped a couple. So you went to Raw, it's the head of high performance. Just wanted to find out what was kind of involved in that role.
It's kind of a mixture of like sports science, S&C, and coaching as well.
Okay.
Session coach, they're putting on sessions and things like that. So it's kind of a mixed bag. But again, it was good, you know, to learn under John and things like that. And, you know, we're in the Asian Cup and we're in the finals. I think we're one game away from winning the league at one point that we blew, but it was good experience. But again, it was just an opportunity to get back into that level, and also an opportunity to experience different roles so that I understood them properly.
Okay.
And how to set.
So just good exposure, developing.
Yeah, and it's the Raw. Like I said, it's a soft spot, right? It's when you're born in Queensland, it's like it's the only you have the Strikers or you have the Raw. It's like that's our club. So you know, I'm here when needed. You come in and you'll do whatever you can. So it's good. But yeah, whatever happens in football, you know, not everyone gets on. So you move on. And the Pride was another good opportunity, and we tried to work on the A-League license with that pretty hard, to the point where I was I got married in Denmark, and I got to stay behind for 6 weeks after the honeymoon, and I spent a fair bit of time traveling with clubs, and, you know, I was at Schalke presenting the A-League bid for the Pride, to Schalke to get them. Yeah, I had Jerome Pollens translating.
Wow.
So he was excellent, and they were really keen and interested to sell that point that, hey, we're in the Champions League, European teams come over, this is where you get your shirt sales, make a lot of money, especially in pre-seasons, things like that. But the A-League couldn't give any definitive criteria, because their question as, you know, ruthless business people is, what's the criteria and when does this happen? And you're there going, well, if you get on board, it helps our bit, but they're not going to get on board unless they see what they're getting on board for, you know what I mean? So it would have been a fantastic alignment. The same thing, Ipswich community, mining town, things like that, same as Schalke.
Yep.
They've got a fantastic business model, external business model. You know, I think the guy that created esports was one of the first ones there, and they all laughed at him. And he made €1 million, whatever it was, in the first year. Then everyone stood up, oh, hang on, there's money to be made out of esports. But very different thinking, like with the business people they've got there, like external business models outside of football.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, trying to go around like a salesman, learn from clubs, and then try to pitch an A-League bid.
Did you think that the Pride were a chance at getting that license? Or did you think it would be a show? Yeah, you did.
Yeah, we're up there. Football is very political. I think I'll leave it at that. But the bid would have been well backed by council, and with the Jets coming in, you got the same small square or rectangular stadium, train station right next to it. You could have built and it's a regional, right? And that's the fastest growing corridor.
Yep.
So you've got all this coming in. You've now got a derby team, which used to be the case back in the day, and you brought that back to life. You got Toowoomba, all these areas, Logan, massive, area that you're encompassing, and you can work with rugby at different times of the year with their seasons, so you can share the same facility. And Pasquale at the time was like, yeah, you can have it rent free and the food and all that. I was like, well, there's money, because that's where you lose a lot of money with the rent, like Raw at Suncorp. So it was set up. It would have been really good, but that's football in Australia, mate.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
Frustrating.
So had you left the Pride once that was announced that you weren't, or the Pride weren't going to get the license, or you left prior to that?
Well, can't remember when it was, but I ended up I left for Guam to go over there. But I'm always like, you start up the thing at Pride, it's massive, and I'm always there in the background or helping or Pat, do you ever needed anything? And then you come back in. So it's like you always feel a part of it because I don't know, I think I made a pretty big dent there, like built something pretty special, started to, and so yeah, it's always a special place.
Yeah, would have been fantastic to see them get an A-League license from back in their NPL days, youth development, turning 10 players into professionals, and then having an A-League license. Yeah, it would have been fantastic to see. But like you say, that's politics in football for you.
It's what Queensland needs, or Brisbane. It needs another team for competition.
Yep.
It just raises the bar for everyone. Anyway, move on.
Guam, James.
Guam. I'm very interested in
James.
Guam. First, I want to know, like, how did that come about, that opportunity?
Well, Belinda Wilson was the technical director for Guam and the head coach of the women's. So Belinda, I knew from the Roar, and she's a Byron Bay girl, so she, been around the Queensland Traps. So I always try to help her out wherever possible when at clubs she was at. But male teams always get more finance and equipment and things like that. So I'd always try to help out, like when she was at the Roar with anything. So she's she was there, and she said, "Oh, you need to apply for the job." And I'm like, "Yeah, pretty funny. I know nothing about national team stuff. And who am I? I'm a no one." And she said, "No, you need to apply." And I think it was like months of convincing me. And I go, "Right, I'll throw my hat in the ring." So I threw my hat in the ring, and it got down to 4. And I was with the Pride at the time, and Graham decided to take the boys to Japan at the end of the season once they've won it, which was good. It was a bit of a leveler for their egos. You imagine a bunch of 17, 19-year-old boys winning a grand final against men. They played some J3 teams, and let's just say it wasn't that easy.
Yeah.
So in Japan, right? And she's like, "Oh, the interview's on." I was like, "Oh, well, I'll just duck across, 4-hour flight." Went across, beautiful place. Went in and interviewed really well. They wanted like a youth development kind of philosophy and strategy in place. They had a break for 2 years with the national teams. They had I wouldn't say the 17s existed. They were there, but they were poor. There was no 20s, no 23s. And then you had the Matau, which is the men's. So it was in turmoil. So they needed it rebuilt. I went and interviewed, did well. And then it went to the next round. And I did okay again in that one. But they were like, "Oh, this other guy's going to get it." And then when they were going through his second interview, he stuffed up with one of the questions. So you can say I Steve Bradbury that one and got the job. Like, I think I was better in the interviewing process. So I got it.
You have to be in it, I suppose.
And I just didn't know. I was like, holy shit, this is happening. And then went over and lived there for almost 4 years and went to work. And it was a massive, massive challenge. Just rebuilding from a cultural perspective, what they were up against in the world financially. To get off the island cost $2,000 per person. So there goes your budget, any away game. So there was a lot, everything was against us.
Yeah.
And also being a US territory, everybody hates the US, as I found out in world football. But we're Guam, but we got tarred with that brush. So there's some pretty funny stories along the way. Made some great mates, still talk with, keep in touch with them all. It's just, they're in a very difficult place from political perspective again. It's things I'd spoken about before. But I was very proud of what we did. Got all the national teams full. Got kids going over to the US for college because that's what they would do. That was their pathway. They would try to go to college, so let's get them out off the island over there. And the strategies kind of got recognised, and we ended up winning an award from FIFA, the AFC Aspiring Nation Award. We know, okay. was huge, and super proud of that. I'm being recognised, and we ended up getting the men's team the furthest they'd ever been, which was round 3 of the Asian Cup qualifiers. I think like we're one of the worst ranked teams, and we made round 3 qualifiers.
Amazing. I think I read a population of 170,000. The island's, just to give some perspective to our listeners, about 44 kilometres long, I believe. So, like, you're talking a big town is basically what you were tasked with leading into qualifiers. That's pretty awesome. So round 3. So what teams were you up against? Like what were the...
Yeah, well, we had Batar. Before we go, the background is like the war, there's a lot of leftovers from that. So a lot of the boys in the US, because of their lineage, so their grandparents were US or in Guam. So we had like an MLS boy, a couple of USL players. So you had like, this small island, then you had professional players.
Yeah, nice, okay.
5 or 6, but they were at the end of their career, like they were finishing up. So we had to bring these young boys through. The teams are up against. So yeah, we played Bataan in the first year. Like, be honest, we were in this EAF tournament, and we should have got through round 1 to round 2, like that was expected, but we didn't. And so there was huge pressure. I was like, hang on, I've come in, I've changed the playing style, everything. We've actually failed to get through the first round. And the hardest thing with international football is you don't play games, like especially Guam.
Mm-hmm.
Money. It's not like it's a league and you can build the boys pre-season. Like, who are you going to play? If you're on an island, you can't afford to off the island. So you do a lot of work internally, and it just needed time. So we failed the first one, so I was under pressure. So then it come the second year to the World Cup qualifiers, and it was round 1, and we had Bataan. So, like, my head's on the block. So we went to Bataan, which is the highest altitude in the world. The stadium took 3 days to get there. One of the scariest plane rides, the most dangerous plane rides. Funny story on the way back. But first of all, we're there 2 days before. First day is okay. Second day, everyone's come down with altitude sickness, which is like bad headaches.
Yeah.
Boys. And then you got the game the next day, and boys are just, at the end, it was like guys like cramping bad in the game. It's just an experience that you just don't get very ever. Pretty lucky to be there. And we lost 1-0. So I was like, awesome. There's like 5 or so days between the games, and we're stuck in Guam, Bataan for a day, and we've got to spend 3 days getting back to Guam to play the return qualifier. And then the pilot. Okay, so the pilot of this trip is the captain of Bataan, because only 9 or 10 pilots in the world fly in and out of Bataan. So in a way, maybe it was a good thing we lost that game, because if we won, maybe he just decided to put the fucking plane down. But yeah, got us to Guam, and then got ready for that. And that was the darkest week of my life as a coach, because I knew if I didn't win, I was gone.
Wow.
Was there that much like expectation and pressure put on you from the board or the federation?
Yeah, and you're a foreigner, and it's coming. And when you push, like the thing with change management is like there's a bar that you can push to, and I'm pretty good at going above that bar. So if I'm coming in pushing and making change, I better come back with results. Otherwise it wears thin, and then they're like, you cop it. So yeah, I don't think I slept that week, and then had a big chat with the boys, a pretty emotional one about everything, what it means, and they were such good guys, and decided to play the local boys a lot more, the local ones in this game, because the pro boys and that, they were good, but the buy-in, it's not like they're part of Guam, but they don't live there. They don't go through what that boys on the island go through every day. So I went that way. Fuck it, if I'm doing it, I'm going out my way. And we won 5-0. Destroyed them.
Wow.
And you talk about a response and the playing group behind you, and I was like, mate, I never had a feeling like that after a game. I was just on cloud 50, mate, not 9. I was just, wow. There's so many good feelings from that game. And straight after the game, I just looked at their coach, and I was like, I felt gutted for him, because he's similar boat. He's not now going to get games for the next. I know the damage that does to a national team program.
Yeah.
So he's now stuck without competitive games, like tournaments. Because if you don't have that, your MA or your board will be like, well, what are we doing? There's no game, so we're not paying for anything. So you just see like what it meant to both, nations. And then we got through to round 2, and then we had like China, the easy one, Syria, Philippines, the Maldives. And that was good. Like we went to China, packed stadium. We lost 7-0, which is an excellent result to beat lose by. Like all the other, it was just that round, like the top seeded teams play the bottom seeded teams. And I think everyone else was getting flogged 14-0, 15, 16-0. But we actually come out and held our own and had a go. And much play Lippy's coaching China. So again, like I'm there shaking hands with this guy, talking.
No way.
I'm like, what am I doing? Coaching against this guy. You know, I wished him good luck, and you know, I think he was going to struggle. But it was again, you're like, what am I doing here? This guy's a legend. I grew up watching this guy.
Hey, surreal.
TV. The real. So, and he was really respectful and like literally come up, and at the end he's like, keep going. Like you had to go, because all teams sit back and they try to absorb and like mitigate the results.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we die on it. I'm Aussie. We don't do that. You're going to, part of your culture now as well. We're going on the front foot and we die trying. So we had to go, and we almost could have scored a goal, but like had a crack, played football. And then obviously the quality is the difference in quality is there. So they're going to put things away that, you know, you don't. But yeah, I think we impressed a lot of people with how we play. Like we could have beat Syria. We just missed open goals, things like that. And Syria, a good team. You know what I mean? And it's like, but again, though, everyone was complimentary of how we were playing and going about our approach, because it's unheard of for a team that low to play football. It's like you park a bus and you But a funny one I'll digress, in Syria. So you can't play there. So you got to play in the UAE because it's where American political reasons we can't go there. So we're playing in Dubai or UAE, playing this game, and it's a press conference before the game. So you go in the day before, right? So they're like, oh, the head coach, the captain. And I was like, okay, I had a sports psych at the time. I brought him over to do some work with the boys. Because every time we go away, it was like, you know, you imagine the fear they're going through. Like they're playing China, like, you know, so there's this massive gap. So anyway, we've got him and the taxi driver. So we're all in the car going to do this press conference, and you turn up in the LOC, which is the person that's in charge, like what's going on. Japanese guy's like, yep, go in here, do the press conference. I walk in there, there's one guy, that's the interviewer, and there's two guys on cameras, like cameras on their phone or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I walk up, everyone else. Obviously, we're Guam, right? So it doesn't matter. So we go sit down, he starts asking questions. And then the first question, like, I'm trying to answer it. And there's two guys, right? So I've got the taxi driver and the sports psych sitting in the front row, and these two camera guys. The camera guy goes, hang on, mate, I've got to go out. He walks out, doesn't come back. Down to one. So he asks questions, we're answering. I don't know who we're answering to. And then asks another question, and the other guy goes, hang on, mate, I've got to go. He walks out. There's no one in there except the interviewer, me, the captain, the taxi driver, and the sports side. And then he keeps asking questions. I'm like, mate, who are we fucking talking to? Like, because it's just how they go about disrespecting you. So because you're a US-based nation, that's how they show, like, we hate you.
Really? Right.
Yeah. So, and you go to airports and, like, the crap you have to go through because you're US-based, like, that's how much they hate, like, in those Middle Eastern countries. Yeah. Yeah, but that interview was just like, well, who's going to ask questions? The taxi driver. Oh, mate, you got a question? Like, it's surreal. And then when we walk out, the Japanese LOC guy is like, I'm so sorry. You know, I said, it's all right, mate. We've been around. The captain's like, yeah, happens. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But they just pop it because of who they're, you know, it's a US-based territory.
It's not Guam's fault, though, is it? Like,
no, it's not, mate.
Isn't it?
But that's what you're up against. There's this snobbery, egotism in the game of football, mate. And where you sit is where you, like in that pecking, like the FIFA rankings, is where you, like, in life. And it's disgusting. Like, you go to these, I was going to like AFC conferences every couple of months, you know, with all the head coaches of Asia are in there, and, you know, they're bringing guys from Europe and that to present. And you're like, I'm sitting there with Carlos Queiroz, and those guys are good. But then you got all these, you know, in the room, there's other guys, or European guys come in, and they're like, just look down. Well, you know, it's an AFC conference, Asian Football Confederation conference, and they're showing European Champions League. I was like, why don't you show some respect and show Asian Champions League? Like, there's good players and teams and countries here, mate, that would wipe the floor with European teams. the issue is that in Asia, we're too respectful. I wouldn't say Aussies are, but, like the rest of Asia are too respectful. So they're like, oh, it's England or it's France. It's like, mate, they will beat you once they understand mentally that there's no like difference.
Mm.
There's not this like, you're above us. So like, Japan almost beat Belgium in the World Cup. Like they should have won when they
Japan are useful.
It's like, mate, they want to win a World Cup. So they would hold conferences again. And, you'd have the heads of like Claire Fontaine there presenting on how they develop players with the Croatian development model. So I'm sitting here, I'm like, everyone's like, yeah, it's Guam. I'm like, mate, you don't know what I get to listen to and who I get to talk to and learn from. So I come away with all this knowledge and information. And it's like, mate, just because I was a national team coach at Guam, I'm involved in all these things. I'm like, wow, awesome. Like, experience from every different level.
That's wicked. And what was it like to live there in a country in terms of the culture and the people?
Yeah, island time. But we're really good at that. Like I made it clear, like this is doing my head in. We need to sort this out. Like, so they made an agreement and it was really good with the boys. They understood, like, all I asked for is just don't be late. Please don't be late. So they policed that really well because I handed over a fair bit. It was like, I'm going to come and go, but I need to leave it so you guys know how to run this place. So if I leave, you put on the sessions and all that. So I kind of did a lot of handover, trained up the local coaches, everything. But they're always dictated to by above boards and that. But it was excellent. The island is beautiful. It's like a mini Hawaii, even better. It's like a reef surrounds it, so it's crystal blue water every day, and it's every day. Like if it rains, it's just for 5-10 minutes, unless they have typhoons, which aren't good because they destroy the island and could be out without power for a day or so. But beautiful, mate. Beautiful place, beautiful people. It's just small, so you go a bit cabin. You get a bit cabin fever, and you need to get off the island. Yeah, I loved it, mate. Beautiful place. We had our daughter there, so she's got a US passport.
Wow,
great place. Everyone goes to Bali, but I'm like, mate, you need to be going to Guam. Right, Micronesia Island, a lot of history. You got Saipan, Palau, beautiful places that are just untouched and unheard of because it's not mainstream, right? So,
yeah, actually, when I look at it on a map, it actually scares me because it's like such a small little dot in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. You're just like,
yeah, it's got the biggest military ammunition depot in the world. Everyone, and that's what World War II, everyone was trying to take over because its nickname's the land aircraft carrier. Where it's positioned, it's perfect. So that's why everyone was trying to take over Saipan, Guam. So the Americans were there, the Japs come, the Americans left, then the Americans come back a couple of years later to take it over, and now they have an Air Force base, biggest one, massive, and then a Navy base because you've got the Marianas Trench. So God knows what's in there. And then Air Force, you've got all the latest planes flying around and the military coming in, like ships and that. So there's a massive military stronghold there. So when old mate from North Korea is threatening to blow it up, it's like, mate, you'll get leveled with what's on this island. I'm back at you. Like,
wow. Guam, mate.
The alarms were going off at the start. I got there and it was like, going to be under attack because old mate at North Korea was having a crack. And I was like, Belinda, what the hell? And she's like, don't worry, it's fine.
Just happened.
They got the, I don't know what they're called, but the missile systems that blow them out of the sky and all that. And then you meet the military guy and you talk, so how well do these things work? And they're like, 99%, pretty good. I go, but we got to let it come really close. I go, well, make sure. Yeah, I don't know, but different experience, mate. There were so many good experiences and the travel, like doing all the different national teams, and you get to see all of Asia and where everyone sits in the world with their development. And, so like you see now, like our Joeys are going to be in for a big shock because we've got like Japan and the UAE, but Vietnam has grown huge, like very quickly. Like these countries are going through the roof with their football development.
Wow.
Like money's being invested in it.
Yeah, cool.
So, yeah, you get to see all that, exposed to it. So, the funny ones, I've got a picture, I need to find it. When we played North Korea in the under-15s, there's no way this guy from North Korea was 15, mate. He was older than me and he must have 14. Shit you not.
Could he play?
My boys, and then this man, and I'm just like, good old North Korea, huh?
Yeah, they just make up their passports on the day.
Yeah.
Just be like, yep, you're under 15.
Yeah.
So what brought about the end? Was it just end of contract with Guam, or?
I would hopefully still be there if it wasn't for COVID. So
Yeah, right.
we had a daughter, born in September, and then I had qualifiers. So because COVID was there, I had to go to China to be in a bubble for 3 months. I'm like, I'm not going to China by myself and my team and leave my wife and my daughter on Guam alone. You know, it's our first daughter. Your life changes when she pops out. It's like, that's my sole focus. So we had to make a pretty tough decision to say, like, look, I'm not good. I don't do anything half-hearted. So I can't drip feed this. It's like, this has to be it. We've got to go home. Life's more important than football and my daughter. So yeah, that was the decision. And I don't, I miss it, but I don't regret it because like that comes first. So
Would you take another, if someone approached you for another international job, would you take it?
yeah, but I know what questions I'd ask in the interview. But it's great. It's very different. Like, I don't say this, I've done it, but if you're a national team coach, it makes you a better club coach because your preparation, attention to detail, you only get these boys for a day or two. Yeah. And then when you understand national team developments and cycles and player development, it's very different to club, how you look at things. So like the first thing you do as a club coach now, I'd be like, where's the international calendar? Right, what's on this year? What players are we going to lose? What tournaments are on? How do I go scouting the best next young boys? Or things like that. It just adds a massive, string to your bow. So yeah, 100% I do it. But to be successful in a national team, you need money or to be landlocked and a good culture, football culture, because you've got to play as many games as you can.
Yeah.
Like, so you climb the rankings. That's how you get your national teams better. And I'm not just talking to seniors, like juniors, all the way through. So, you take an Asian national team that's landlocked that has other teams, you can get on a bus and go play games. If you're on an island, it's a very, very expensive venture, and you don't get to play a lot of games. So you need to go somewhere where you can play a lot of games, and also where the domestic league's decent. Well, boys can go to other countries and play. So there's a few key ingredients for national teams to do well. If you want to do well, coaching a national team.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're finding to nothing. Yeah, experience.
Yeah, good stuff.
Awesome.
So 2021, you come back and like concurrent roles, assistant coach at Newcastle Jets, but I wanted to dive into your role with FIFA as a technical expert consultant. What does that entail?
So off the back of Guam, Belinda got a job up in FIFA, and then what we did kind of got recognised. So I got brought on as a technical expert consultant. Again, I'm like, sure you got the right person, but it's good because you get to pass on your experiences, education and knowledge, things like that, about how you go about things. Because I think differently, I believe, than others. I don't do the same. I have a different way of looking at it. So, for example, FIFA hands out a lot of money to MAs, member associations, or countries you might know, but they're MAs. And then it's how that money's spent. So there's programs. So, for example, we did one in Mexico where they wanted to start an under-15 league. So how do we go about starting that so it flows into full time? So you go over and help set that up, the strategies. Maybe we have hubs and we build it up over time and it becomes centralized until we get the money, things like that. National teams where the preparation one, like for the Women's World Cup. So Asia got an extra spot. So we spent a lot of time developing those countries that were still qualifying physically. How do we improve that so there's a better chance of them making it? And then when they are in the World Cup, they're not so far off the pace.
Yeah, they're competing a bit. Yep.
Yeah, so it's like you've got that. Then you've got like governance kind of things where you go in and try to help with governance things or league development, club development. What else they got in their leadership staff, coaching, like technical stuff where you're going in as well. So it's kind of like a really broad approach because like when you're a national team coach, you're literally like a CEO. Like you do everything. You have to marketing, you need to run your organization, HR, train up, like everything. So it kind of transfers across, and because you've done it in tough places, you're very resourceful,
Okay.
quick thinking. Whereas, if you come from somewhere with money fixes everything and you haven't got money, it's like, oh, now what do we do? But it's like, well, never had money, so I know how to fix it. So it's good, and you learn a lot. Like you get to go to a lot of different countries, and you learn off people, and it's just, again, the network and the learnings of others as well, having all those contacts, like we just had one. That's the reason I went to Europe, was the FIFA one. And, you're talking with us and Wenger, like I'm there picking things up. So you get exposed to
You didn't tell him you were a Spurs fan, did you?
yeah. Well, I can drop that one because he doesn't coach there now, but he's, you lose track of the caliber of people that you get to meet and talk to, and just, I'm just like a sponge. I'm like, okay. They probably get sick of me because I just ask so many questions. And what about here? What would you do there? I just want to know.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are some of the places you've been to around the world for this FIFA role?
FIFA, Singapore, Japan, Mexico, Switzerland, Dubai, a few Asia. Haven't gone more online consulting with a lot of the Oceania nations when we're getting them ready for the World Cup. Where else have I been? Malaysia. You kind of work with I don't know, Belinda kind of throws me in with the hard ones. I'm like, can I have a one that's like a bit easier, but it's not from a problem solving one. It's like, I think she uses my skill set. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah.
There you go. And next up, head coach at Brisbane City. You touched on that a bit earlier, from 2022 to 2024. So how did you find that time? Did you?
Well, I'd been at the Jets. So when I come back, Craig Deans was at the Jets, and he's, it was a good opportunity. He's like, I'm not going to be here forever. I'll come be the assistant. And there's a certain agent, let's say, that runs that club that had different ideas. So when Deansy moved on, he moved. I stayed on for a little bit, but the people he brought in, wasn't my type of people or football. So I made a decision like, we're out, it's done. It wasn't working. And my missus got a really good job in Brisbane. So I was like, okay, we'll come back up. And I didn't do much for 6 months or so, and I was getting bored. But I was also frustrated. I'd had enough. Like I get frustrated with Australian football because of the lack of opportunity and the mentality across the board, not just players, like all the way up. Like we could be doing it so much better. But so sitting at home, bored, and then Brisbane City come, Matt Smith was leaving. So went and met them and sold the dream of, we're going to be in the B League. These are the plans, come in, make it professional. I'm like, okay, I like a project, let's come in, make it professional. So the first year we made the finals, which was the first time in 10 years. And then got facilities up, built the gym, literally built that gym with Luke De Vere. The floors, got the fields a lot better. The professionalism throughout the club, the culture, pecking order, you earn the right to be in the top team. Tried to bring that in. And then the second year I took a different approach that didn't sit well. And basically it was just a breakdown in communication and being on the same page, mate. It wasn't a good year, but I was big on building the kids again, and they were doing really well. So in the league, we kind of struggled a little bit. Well, what really killed us was losing our two strikers in the first window. So we didn't really have it. Our two strikers are gone, and it's too late to replace them. I'd use the visa spots on a goalkeeper and Musa, the right back. So it was like, okay, we'll just get through this year, blood all these young boys. And I think 17 young boys got blooded in the 2 years. And, we're in the semi-finals of all the cups and the round of 32 in the FFA or Oz Cup, it's called now, right?
Yep.
So from a cup perspective, we're doing well, but you're going to get that from young boys because they'll get up for a game. But consistency week to week is different with young players. So we're kind of struggling in the league. We weren't getting flogged. We're just like, it's a goal. They don't put the thing in the net, they'll score a goal. It was just one of those years we just had to bite. And I'd explain that. We just need to bite this one, just get through it. And we've got this production line coming next year. You imagine all these boys, young boys next year, how much better they're going to be. So it was a time thing. And look, Italian club, they don't want that. They want it straight away. They want to win now. Difference of opinion. Didn't work out. Pretty disrespectful the way it ended, especially all the energy and what I'd done at that place to change in the path that it was on. But look, that's how people handle it. That's football. You're going to get sacked everywhere you go or moved on. And then I think like the Raw thing was always in the background. But to be honest, I was sitting on the fence because I'm like, well, I've been at the Raw before. If this club, City, is serious about being in the B League and, things happen behind the scenes that weren't saying that. So you kind of like, well, all right, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to be lied to. So the opportunity with the Raw they put me on guarding leave for the last 4 games and I didn't get to do the cups, which is pretty disrespectful in my opinion. Like the F8, the Oz Cup, I didn't get to do that. And then I didn't get to do the other cup that were in the final for and see the last 3 games out. It's like, it's not hard to transition out respectfully.
Yeah.
Over to the next coach and everything, mate. That's how I operate, like proper pro. But look, whatever. So I'm here at the Raw now, and that's where it's at. And loving it. We've changed the youth team system within the 3 months we've been here. It's been a lot of work. I'm very happy where it's at. Facilities are a lot better at Mappus. The playing group, the culture, professionalism, everything like that. We're just trying to replicate a mini, A-League team. Not making it nice for them because they're kids and they haven't made it, so they still need diversity, But that's where we're at. But look, that's football, mate.
At the Raw NPL. So how does a young player get identified and get into that Raw NPL setup? Is it through FQ or how does it sort of work?
Yeah, so the state teams, whatever they're called now, they'll have players and should have a talent pool. But, we've come in and we've also started to expand our talent pool. One thing I have done is, being a local guy, I know pretty much everyone in the game. So getting the SPL schools on board was a big one. So they're all good coaches and know the players. Like the school coaches know the players. So we don't have a scouting system. I cannot watch every game, nor do I want to watch every game, honestly. So let's use everyone so then everyone feels a part of this product or this system that we're creating. You find a player and you go, Dodzy, I've got this boy and he comes in and he does well. How good do you feel? Hey, I've got that boy, help get that boy into the Raw, and next minute he's playing A-League and we're watching him at Suncorp. You have attachment to that. So that's what I want for Queensland. I want everyone on board. We're all part of this. We've got one club. Not everyone makes it in the Raw, and I get it. They got to go into state, but it's a lot of it is coaches, mate, scouting and watch, and then I'll go and watch them. Like a dull idea playing, okay, I'll go and watch them, or I'll bring them in, and I'll run my eye through them, and then you start to understand coaches' opinions. Because some coaches think all their players are good enough, and then some are really stringent and probably should have recommended a couple of others. So you find the balance in the person who's giving their opinion. But the day I will always bring that person in to form my own opinion. But it's difficult, mate, because like at the expense of the kid, there should be there always has been, in my opinion, an unwritten rule that if there's a young boy in your club, you get into the professional pathway as quick as possible and you give him every opportunity to be a pro. If he doesn't make it at 2021, different story. Back to clubland. Go there, you've had your chance, it hasn't worked. But you have issues, mate, where clubs don't want to release players because they think that they're a better stepping stone or have better contacts to get them an A-League opportunity. But if you understand how the system works, A-League clubs don't have time to go and watch NPL games like the top guys. So they'll look to the youth system. And then other A-League clubs will look at CVs. So if I've got a boy I release from the Raw, or versus a boy, from an NPL club, the guy from Interstate will go, well, he's got a good pedigree. He was at the Raw Youth. Regardless if he knows who the coaches were or what it was like, on your CV is professional pathway like Raw, not NPL club, right? And then that magnifies when you go overseas to Europe. Do you think teams in the UK know who like Olympic are, Brisbane City, not disrespect, just naming names? Do you think they have any clue who they are?
No.
It's a quick Google search on professional football. They know who the Brisbane Roar is. So it's like we kind of have to park our ego and just go, look, give the kid the chance, go there. If he's not good enough, he comes back and I help push the kid back in that club. It's a two-way street. Like I can't get everyone up, and that's just the nature of football, right?
Yeah.
Mainly try to optimize their development. And for young kids, and this is what we sold at the Pride, was it's better that you're in a group where everyone has the same goal. You all want to be pros. You will train 4 times a week. You will do extras. You know, you haven't got guys in there that just want to pick up a paycheck, train once a week and play a game. You know, that environment is key to your development at this point in your career. And when you turn 19, 20, 21, if it hasn't happened, okay, go to Clublands and cash in. You'll be worth so much more as a better developed player than if you cashed in at 17. So right now, a lot of coaches are good and they'll help and they understand that. But there are some that aren't, and they're blocks. And I'm like, it's this kid's career. You shouldn't be coercing or forcing this kid. It's his decision. Like, I'll never tell a kid, come to the Raw. It's like, this is what I provide. You go and get your club and you put it down. And then on a piece of paper, write pros and cons. And you make a decision. Because if I force you to be here, then you haven't come of your own accord. And then there'll be a disgruntled player and I'll end up getting rid of you anyway. So it's like, I shouldn't be asking you or begging you to come. Like, that's, you know, if you're a young boy, it's like, I want to make it, that's the pathway. Or the main pathway, right? I'm not saying kids from NPL can't make it. I'm not saying that. But there's a bigger chance of making it being in the raw pathway or professional pathway. So that's where I sit, and the club coaches should be doing the same. Yeah, write down pros and cons, where it's going to be best for you, and then make a decision based on facts. And you say, no, you want to stay at that club, no problem. But you do know that you've just shaved a year off your career. Like, in a sense, like, you know, but that's the reality. It's not me saying, because I'm the Raw youth coach, that's how it works. I did the same at NPL. I would kick kids out. I'll drive you to the airport. I'll take you to the Raw train. Like, you need to get out of NPL. But just because I'm in this position, it's not, I'm saying it because I want that player. It's the reality, because I know where we look for players. I've been international. I've been professional in the A-League. I know where we look as coaches for players.
Yeah.
And that's just reality, mate. We don't have scouts or develop, you know. So not attacking clubs. I'm just like, guys, can we just like work together in a set, you know?
Yeah, I feel people lose sight of that. Let's develop, and like you say, James, we've not produced anyone in football for a long time of real high level. I'm talking, so we lose sight of that, I think.
Oh yeah, and you get them in, and you're like, well, where's the basics? Like, there's a lot that these kids lack as well that we've got to like fast track and to polish them to be ready. So, you know, there's a lot that goes into it when you're a young boy. Whatever club you choose, it's who's your coach. Like, what coach are you with? That's what's going to teach you the most. Don't worry if your club gets pumped every week, because if you're a defender, you want that, because you want defensive action. If you're an attacker, you might not want that. But, you know, you go to a club that wins every week, how easy is it defending, because you don't do any? So it's like that, all these things weigh up. But the coach that's in front of you, what they know, what they can pass on, how they can make you a better player is the most important. And also that environment, the young players. And they need to take their time looking at that properly.
Yeah.
Like, not just this club wins every year. It's like, yeah, but are you learning? Like, what are you learning when you're winning all the time?
Yeah. I think there's a bit of that ego comes in, is like people just want to win, or they want titles, or they, you know, and I think
it happens all the time. I try to bring in like, well, all the youth team like younger coaches at clubs that I go to, I go, you're not coaching that team. You're coaching players for the top to get them out of this. So you're part of a pathway. But like, they're just used to this way of operating where it's like, I want to win the under 15s. It's like, oh, we go and sign all the best under 15 players we want. It's like, yeah, but where did you expose those kids to adversity? Like, where do they have it tough? I don't want them winning every week. I want them winning some weeks, losing, drawing, like, so they know how to handle all these experiences and know what it feels like to lose. So then, okay, what do I need to do different to win?
Yeah.
It's like, you've got the winning recipe, but then what against different players? So there's, again, lots to it, but it's very frustrating to try to change this way, this commonality that happens in Australian football.
Yeah, I guess as you say, kind of like trophies and success is a byproduct of actually developing the players, rather than...
Get it all right, you're going to win every time, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But if I band-aid it, then you're not going to be exposed. And how do you know that part of your game develops? Like, if you always use your right foot, are you ever going to have a left foot? You know, that's just an example, but a simple...
Yeah, my left foot's terrible, but we won't go there.
Speaking of players up in like being put under adversity and stuff in games. At the start to the season, you've got your first 2 rounds in the NPL. You've got Penn, Power, and then Lions. Doesn't get any harder than that, which will be good for the kids.
Mate, there's no easy game when you're coaching youth, and I don't think people understand that. It's like they're like, "Oh, don't you want to win?" It's like, have you ever coached young boys before? Do you know how frustrating, infuriating it is as a coach? Because you know they can do it, but you can't joystick coach them. You know what I mean? They've got to do it. They've got to learn. They've got to go through this experience. So yeah, but you could play a Penn Power Lions, and they could probably step up and win. And then you'll go and play a team, for example, that might be perceived as a smaller team, and they'll lose because they'll come in cocky, going, "Well, we beat Lions, we can beat anyone." You're like, "Fuck, mate! Like anyone can get up for one game, you know."
Yep.
But every game is difficult with youth. You know, there's teams that are super physical. So can you handle that and outplay them with the ball? There's always a challenge with young boys. You know what I mean? So yeah, thanks whoever did the fixturing for Lions. But yeah, same as Kappa Cup. Like we got Brisbane City this weekend in Bundaberg. You know, it's the first competitive game for these players. So preseason means nothing, and that's what I've been saying to them. Like you win in preseason, did you get 3 points? No. These older boys can change gears, mate, and go up a level. Like you haven't developed that yet, and they can flick a switch which you haven't developed yet. So competitive game, are you going to be a deer in headlight, or are you going to be a young, bashful young boy that's going to come out firing? What is it? You know, so you just don't know what you're going to get because they haven't delivered that on a consistent basis for years, and that's part of youth development, and that's why it goes like this, yo-yos.
Yep.
And you've got to be patient because, yeah, I can go and park a bus and maybe we win 1-0, but are they the players you want in the A-League? Like they're not going to make it. And that's what you try to tell teams that play that. It's like national team coaches look at players that can play. Are you playing football? Can I see them in every parts of the game? And how do you go? So yeah, we're going to go out and play every single week. Be smart, street smart, but like end of the day, it's anything happens when you cross that line. You're playing men. You're not playing 17, 18-year-old boys.
Yeah, true.
No easy game.
So what would be a successful season, do you think, for you as a coach and the Raw youth team? How would you sum up a successful season?
Good question. There's so many things to it, right? Because
Obviously not results driven, as you've just said. It's more about development. And yeah, how would you sum up?
if the boys left everything on the pitch in every game, learned to do that with and without the ball, I would be a happy coach because I know that that's what they can control in their development and progression. So giving everything, not hesitating, being confident, going expressing yourself and then doing the work off the ball, like I would be buzzing as a coach if that happened every single game. I know it's not. If players kicked on to the next level, I would love to see my whole team go up or in other clubs, like professional clubs. Like that's why I coach. I want to make players better. And if I get all that right, then winning is the byproduct of those because they're getting all the processes right. If they're up to the next level, right, or they're giving 100%, that's all I can ask for. Those two probably things would be huge for me. And then where we finish on a ladder would take care of itself if I got those two right. Yeah, it's a tough one because even as a coach, you're like, oh, imagine, as coach, you thought, imagine we won the league. It's like, yeah, but just park that thinking. You do, but
yeah, 100%.
And don't have that in the back of your head.
It's human nature.
Yeah,
it's human nature, mate.
Yeah.
We're all competitors. We're all like the racehorses that want to win. But you've got as a coach park it because you can become too emotional with the young boys.
Yeah.
That's when it's like you demand too much of them because they're not at that point right now. So there's like raising the bar just above where they're at, and then there's too far. When you do too far for too long, mate, this is where you lose players. So it's like it's hard. You're managing yourself more than the players because you know they can do more. You see it, and you're like, mate, just give me that all the time. Like,
yeah.
No, it's good. And just good people. If they can develop into good people, I'm big on character. Like you're a good person off the field. Like we have equipment groups and everything like that. It translates to the field and in life. I'm trying to teach you good life skills. And it's a dog eat dog world. So fight for it. You want it? Show me. It's the same with any job. Show initiative. Show you the hardest worker. Show you've got the brains. All those kind of things. Like it translates to life. At the end of the day, like, be a good person, but also don't back down. Like, people are going to challenge you. They're going to say things. Like, we cop it all the time. Well, you're the Raw, youth team. You think you're good. It's like, no, we're just here to play. You can't handle the physical side. Well, they can. It's like, people are going to challenge you, but it's like, stand up for yourself. Show them what you're made of and who you are. It's like, there's bullies everywhere, right? We've had a few in pre-season, which are pretty interesting, but it's like, mate, end of the day, this is a youth development team. We have a different purpose in a way to the other clubs, yeah? Like, their sole purpose is to spend a lot of money and win a trophy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to do that through coaching and development without any money.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, we've just probably got a couple more questions. We've had you for a while. I apologise. But just a few quick fire ones. So just as a coach, what would be the main thing you look for in a player, like characteristics?
Footballing perspective, like from a footballer, intelligence. So if they've got a football brain, doesn't matter if they're fast or slow, they'll always be in the right position and they'll learn quick and I can get them up. So intelligence is one, and then grit is the second. So you've got to want it more than anyone and be willing to do whatever it takes, because that's what it's like. So if I've got an intelligent player who has that, your ceiling is a lot higher than anyone else.
Yeah.
So they're the two things from a football perspective. And then off the field, like, I don't want an angel. I want someone who's like a good person, respectful, but also has got a bit about them. Like, you got to be a bit cheeky. You got to have something about you, right? You got to push the edge. Like, that's what you are. If you're just plain Jane, you're not going to make it, mate. Like, you've got to have something about you.
Yeah, cool.
So a bit of respectful, Matt. You guys know.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
Yeah, those kind of things. Otherwise, you don't stand out.
Yeah, nice. Just also want to know, who's the best player you've played with and who's the best player you played against?
With would be Russell Ladder, by far. A lot of good players played with, but like, just him, his composure, and just made the game look so slow, and at 40 years of age, just killing it. Like, the guy could have gone on, but he just liked the party lifestyle a bit too much. Against, well, I could say like Beckham was good, but that's a profile name. But I played against some other, like Karl Dodzy, played against Ronaldinho, Lucio. Remember, we played Brazil in the Olympics as a friendly game, and I don't think I touched the ball.
Wow.
Running around, and they were just taking the piss. 2-touch, didn't change gears. You got Lucio, Ronaldinho. What you does. You don't even know that's big names. But you could see, Jesus Christ, at the level.
Yeah, but Ronaldinho was just pure ability, wasn't he? Like, he would have always had that
Unbelievable.
up his sleeve.
Right, I mean, Marcelo, there was a few. I'm trying to think who else. Always in the A-League, you played against we're probably one in their prime that we got come over, but like standout games where you just like, well, what just happened? Probably that one, the Brazil one.
Amazing names.
I got one. What's the future hold for you long-term coaching-wise? What's your end goal? Do you want to be head coach professionally, like at a high level, or you want to go more down the consultancy sort of path?
It's tough because if you
It's all about opportunity.
Opportunity, you take roles for various reasons, right? One, because you need money coming in to pay a mortgage.
Yep.
Like, I'm not Jose Mourinho on 10 million a year, so I've got to work.
Yep.
So you do these other roles as well, and they help develop you as a coach. But yeah, goal is to be professional level coach, head coach or assistant coach. I think sometimes you prefer assistant coach because the pressure's off a little bit. You don't have to deal with all the politics and managing up as much. It just depends on the club and the person. Like, if it was a good head coach, I'd love to work for them and learn. And, I love that kind of thing. Or if it's where I have to task to do something, I'd love to be the head coach as well. Like, you just split between the two, but I believe I could do both. Whether that's in Australia or overseas, it just comes down to opportunity. And I think, like, now I'm starting to get, or the last couple of, 5 months, I'm starting to get the itch again. I think you go like this with your motivation as a coach. especially in Australia. Because you do cop it a fair bit. There's not much opportunity, and you are pushing like shit uphill every day, trying to make change and things like that, with no budgets. So, yeah, anywhere in Australia, professionally or overseas, would love to do that for the rest of my life. But also got to be pragmatic. I've got a wife and a kid, mortgage, so.
No, that's good. Good stuff.
Awesome. Well, I think that's everything from us, I think.
That's all we had, yeah. Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, so you boys are based at Mackay.
Yeah.
Yep.
You still playing, or just help? What are we
Just about hanging on.
Yeah, we are still playing in Mackay, yeah.
How's it all going now with everything after coming out of the NPL or whatever it's called?
Yeah, that was a shame, but it's much like there's no NPL team north of Sunny Coast now, which is, yeah, there's no development. I feel there's no development for any sort of youth north of the Sunny Coast, which is a shame.
It's you can't see every club. Like, we're so different in Queensland, right? It's like massive distances. And as a governing body, for me, it's like, you've got to spend money in these areas to develop, and it might come at a loss. But it's the benefit of football in this state. You know what I mean? If you don't have that, how are you going to know these kids? Because if the kids don't see a pathway and an opportunity, then they just go, I'll go play something else. Or I just won't compete as much. I'll just cap myself. I know I'm never going to make it. And I just, it's demoralizing. Like, I saw that with the Fury. I couldn't believe they shut it down. It's like, mate, so many good players. And to be honest, mate, the ones you want are the country ones, because they'll run through a brick wall through you. They're built, they're tough, and they can play, right? Yeah. And that's what we are in Queensland. We're like silk and steel, mate. We can all play, and we're fucking like steel traps. Like, that's Queensland footballers, and we kind of like losing that a bit the more metropolitan we stay, and we're losing that regional side. It's like, need it back, mate. I don't know how. I have my pay grade, but if I'm in charge, I'm like, I know that's an expense to have Mackay, to have Townsville, to have Rocky.
Yeah, but I think the Fury, you spoke about it, like getting rid of them was just diabolical, I think, because it could have ended up like the Cowboys, where they were the team of the North Queensland, and you had Cairns, Mackay, Mount Isa,
it's a good
Rocky, everyone supported the Cowboys. That could have been the Fury, and all the NPL teams could have fed into the Fury. Anyway,
you could have had Northern Territory involved as well. Darwin, you can merge that whole northern, region team, and that's your flagship team. You go around and you're promoting the game. Like, imagine any more like people watching the game now because the Fury's playing in Cairns or they're playing in Darwin. Like, they get to see it live. They can touch it. It's not just, oh yeah, is A-League on? Like, it's ludicrous, mate. Ludicrous. But like, it's happened. This is where we're at. But yeah, I feel for you guys. And hey, how's it like? How you going? You're doing this podcast for what? Trying to get it bigger? Like, what's the plan with your podcast?
Well, I guess we've kind of just been trying to shine a light a bit on regional football. We're not trying to make money out of it, that's for sure. It's but
we just love coming in, talking.
Yeah, just talk shit
and talk people like you and football journeys. Love it.
Yeah, it's kind of started us, just chatting, but we've started getting guests on, and it's been growing, so it's been really good.
And I guess at the moment we're on a bit of a crusade, I guess, about regional football and player development, and the lack of support from Football Queensland in the regions. So.
Yeah, I feel, mate, it's good to bring awareness. It's a starting point, right? You just got to keep banging at the door. It's the same. You fight the good fight. So what I feel like I'm doing sometimes, I'm like, you just walk away sometimes, but you're like, nah, you got to keep fighting. It's like, because you never know what happens in football. Things change so quickly, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's tough, but it's sad as well, because the potential that these regions have. Like, you look at the players that come from the old QAS, the Northern, Cody's, the Carabellas, the Shrows, mate. This free like Corica, amount of good players from up north.
Yep.
Well, we just seen Tom Waddingham for Portsmouth and scoring his debut. So,
So his dad, his brother Paul Waddington, I used to play with.
Oh, really?
It's crazy because I saw him at a youth. We played the Roar Youth when I was at City in a behind closed match doors, and his dad was. I was like, "Fuck, is that? Hey, mate, how are you? I haven't seen you for ages." And it's like, Small world of football, eh?
Yeah.
Yep, it is. Yeah.
And then his kids, and he was a striker too, his old man, and then his kids overseas in Portsmouth. But like the light that shines on all the kids from his region as well, because they all know who he is. It's like there's a connection there.
Yeah, played for Edge Hill. It's like it's a local club. Like it's crazy. So that really does like stories like that. And we talk about Louis Zabala in Brisbane Roar. You know, like just coming from, I think it was from Guru, which is like 20 people and a chicken, and he's like made it. Do what it is. I've been there, and he's made it all the way. You know, Brisbane Roar. It's awesome.
It's good to see. Good to see there's still some young kids coming from the regions.
But their stories alone, like boys here just don't know how hard that is. I'm from the Gold Coast, and like the Fivers had to drive up to make one team. So you talk to boys in the country, come from a town with 20 people and a chicken, and then he won that, and he's out. It's like the story for him to get to where he is huge.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Yeah,
it's like that's why he's such a good competitor. It's like that's the DNA of Queensland, and it's like where is that now? And these players come through. Like it kind of gets lost, and that kills you as a coach because you're like, I know it's out there.
Yeah,
where guys and what happened. Like as much as football evolves, that competitiveness, that who you are, DNA, it doesn't change.
Right.
It gets filtered out, right? And you just have it from one area.
Mm.
No, I appreciate the chat, boys. Anytime, and I'll if you want, I can fish around and see. I'll tell Brocky to pull his finger out and get on your show. To Jim now, stop stuffing around. And then anyone else you want that I know, or happy to help. Always, it's been good chat.
Yeah, thank you.
At the I'll say locals, even though you were in an Arsenal shirt. But
I
I hold that again.
I don't know. I would have worn
One Tottenham shirt up. You got one in the background as well. It's like you got to balance it out.
Yeah, no, we've got no Tottenham fans in here. We've got a Man United, a Bolton, and a Liverpool. So
Surprised Dan Burnell didn't send you a Tottenham shirt.
Yeah, I don't think he likes me anymore because
you give him a bit of stick, James.
A stick. But, anyway.
But Dodzy, thanks very much, mate, for your time. It's been fascinating listening to your journey through playing and into coaching. Just listening to some of your philosophy. Sorry, I think you got some good stock there. So I wish you well for the upcoming NPL season and your career in the future.
Thanks,
so
boys.
Thank you very much.
What's up, man? Thank you. Cheers.
It's Thierry Henry! He scored! He scored for Arsenal in the Bernabeu! Here's Messi. Away from 2, 3, 4. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. But Gerrard! You beauty! What a head, son! What a head! No pocket. Oh! Fantastic! Aguero!
Stick it in the onion bag.